So Texas has just introduced SB7, Senate Bill 7. This is the new election/voting law that has been introduced in the wake of the 2020 elections in Texas. This bill is racist. This bill disenfranchises many black and minority voters. Except it doesn't, not at all. But if you listen to the mainstream media, if you pay attention to Vox, Recode, Huffington Post, MSNBC, all these different places, they're starting to say things like this. Texas has just introduced a new bill, SB7. And first thing that's happening is everybody on the left is coming out and saying that it's racist. That how dare they do anything like this? This is horrible. This is just like Georgia. We must boycott them. This is the next fight for people's freedoms and rights to vote. Except if you actually read the bill, you see that that's not true at all. I actually did read the bill. Okay, I have it right here. Bill text, SB7. I guess if you printed it up, it'd probably be about 20 pages long. And what most of this bill does is it amends the current legislation that is already in effect in Texas. In fact, if you go through here, you see everything in green is new text that's added. And you get to some of these sections where you've got things that are in red. That's text that they've removed. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going with this. Most of this bill is clarifying things that were previously just presumed, right? That's what most of this bill is. Okay, the reason that this bill was introduced is because nobody, no state, no governor or attorney general or election board commission or anybody, Secretary of State, nobody wants to deal with what happened specifically in Georgia in 2020. Nobody wants to deal with that. Now, that didn't happen here in Texas. We didn't have the proverbial shit show that Georgia had when it came to the election being contested. But also Texas wants to make sure that it never happens. I mean, that's the whole reason Georgia is passing the bill that they're passing, because they don't ever want to deal with that again. And Texas is going, well, let's go ahead and clarify our election laws just to make sure that it doesn't happen here. And that's what's going on. So I'm going to go through each of the changes. What I did is I went through each of these things, and I essentially put these things here in layman's terms in a much shorter, more compact, probably a 2-pager here, okay? So that I can pass this information along to you because I think it's important for you to have it. Because inevitably, you're going to be talking to a family member or a friend or somebody or a coworker who's going to say, hey, did you hear about that new racist law in Texas? And it's not racist in any way, shape, or form. But at least this way you'll have some information so you can have that conversation from a point of knowledge instead of just guessing. One thing I do want to mention in here, there's absolutely nothing in this about voter ID. That's already a thing we have in Texas. I know a lot of people think that just in and of itself is racist because of the subtle racism of low expectations that so many people on the left have. They think that, I guess, people who are black or minority just are, I don't know, if they think they're just too poor or too dumb to know how to get an ID or whatever it is. It's very racist as far as I'm concerned, but that's not even in this bill. None of that is even affected by this bill. So let's just go through this real quick. And we'll see how most of this is clarification. Some of it is adding some things. A little bit of it is taking some things out, changing some wording and things like that. But nothing in here is racist. First of all, it clarifies no felon can vote, and authorities must report prohibited users. In other words, if somebody becomes a felon, that county has to report them to the Election Commission so that they are on the list of people who are prohibited from voting. That was already presumed before, but it wasn't in the text of the legislation, so now it is. No ballot harvesting. They actually put that in the legislation. There were other laws that had to do with ballot harvesting. Now it's in the main election law. Requests for mail-in votes for disability must affirm that they actually are disabled. They have to show proof. Doctor's note, whatever. Maybe something from, if you're on disability, you get something from the Social Security Administration. You have to prove you're disabled as to why you are requesting a mail-in ballot, okay? Disabled voters can vote in vehicles, and they're the only ones that can. You can't vote from your car, okay? But if you're disabled, you can. Also, vehicle voters must be in the vehicle alone unless the person who is with them due to their disability. In other words, it's somebody that has to stay with them to help them because of their disability, okay? So far, nothing racist. No soliciting of votes or mail-in ballots. Again, that goes back to kind of ballot harvesting. Okay. You cannot distribute registration application forms, and a person must request those forms themselves. Somebody else can't request them for them. Again, this kind of leans toward the ballot harvesting kind of thing. You're helping people vote, that kind of thing. Electronic tracking of mail-in ballots from the ballot request all the way to the time of the actual voting for that person. Signature comparison on mail-in votes and on ballot requests. I don't know how they're going to do that, I guess, with people's driver's license that's on file. You can compare the signature. Mail-in ballots are tabulated separately from other votes, so are early voting. They're tabulated separately. So you're going to have three groups: early voting, mail-in ballots, and in-person votes, and they're all tabulated separately. They don't get mixed up. Electronically record early voting ballots and envelopes and report to early voting ballot board. Okay, in other words, they're going to scan the front and back of the ballots, okay, and then electronically record those. Poll watchers are not prohibited from having a recording device. Nice. And so you can take your camera if you're a poll watcher or your phone or whatever. A watcher must be close enough to see and hear election officers. See no problem with that. Watcher cannot be denied free movement at the polling location. Okay? You can't distance or obstruct a poll watcher. Okay? You can't tell them you got to go stand over there, or we're just going to put up some sheets or something so you can't see. Can't do that. Okay? All county polling places must have the same amount of voting machines as all other county polling places. In other words, if you're in a county and this polling place has 20 machines, every polling place has to have 20 machines. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like they're disenfranchising anybody. It sounds like they're ensuring that more machines are evenly distributed throughout the county so that everybody has equal access. That's what it sounds like to me, but maybe I'm wrong. No polling places in a tent, and no voting from vehicles, as we talked about. Record spoiled ballots from electronic voting units. Okay, I guess, and I'm not really sure on this one. I guess before they only recorded paper ballots. Now they're going to record it either also electronically, or they're going to go out of their way to record the electronic spoiled ballots as well. Spoiled ballots, I assume, is talking about ballots that have been damaged or there's something wrong with them. Anyone other than an election official that helps a person vote, in other words, goes into the polling place with them and actually helps them vote at the little booth or whatever, they have to have ID, give a valid reason why they're doing it, and they have to explain their relationship to the person. Are they a son, a daughter, a mother, a brother, whatever it might be? And the state is going to provide a form that they can put that information on, because they have to have a record as to why are you helping this person vote? Are you influencing them in some way, or is it a legitimate reason? And again, I don't see anything wrong with that. That's basically page 1 here. The other thing here, institute a strict chain of custody for ballots and keep records for all people who are in that chain. So you're going to institute probably a new protocol, I'm assuming, and keep track of everybody who's in the chain of custody. Preserve ballots for longer than 60 days if it is a contested election. Right now, the current law says that after 60 days you can get rid of the ballots. Now they're saying no, if it's a contested election, you can keep them indefinitely as long as the election is still contested. All written record, or all electronic records related to voting cannot be deleted or overwritten. Certainly nothing wrong with that. By the way, have you heard anything racist or disenfranchising so far? Correct answer is no. Okay, 7-7 voting. Now this was very controversial. Oh, it's only 7-7. What? It's always been 7-7. They're just clarifying that because of COVID. Last year, they extended the hours because people were scared and freaked out and wanted more time to vote. They extended it for COVID. Now they're just putting it back to the way it was. I've never been allowed to vote after 7 p.m. in Texas, no matter where I've gone. Whether that was early voting, voting in person on the day, whatever it is, I've never been allowed to vote before 7 p.m. or after before 7 a.m. or after 7 p.m. They've just put that in the law, and then they removed the wording "at least," because it used to say a polling place has to be open at least 12 hours, to which all the polling places in Texas would just open 12 hours. They removed "at least" and just changed it. All polling places must be open for 12 hours. And that's where the 7-7 thing comes in. It's not that controversial. It's always been that like that in Texas, except for 2020 when things were different because of a pandemic. That's it. Okay? Early voting must be conducted inside a polling place, not outside. Early voting can be moved to any room in the building. They changed the word stationary structure to building, again, because they want early voting to be done inside. Because sometimes there's places where they set up early voting and they don't want to bring it inside, so they just do it like in tents outside. And they're like, no more of that. It needs to be in a building where it can be better monitored, because I guess voting outside leaves the door open for more inconsistencies or something, or potential screw-ups. I don't know, but that's what it is. Again, early voting is 7 to 7 as well. Ballots cannot be arranged in a way that all of one political party's candidates can be selected in one motion or gesture, i.e., straight ticket vote, all Republicans, all Democrats. That used to be something that for a long time here in Texas you could do. You could just fill out that one little bubble and it'd vote all one party for you. They took that off about 2 election cycles ago. They said they didn't want that anymore. They wanted people to vote for the people that they actually want. A little bit of an inconvenience. It takes longer, but I've always done that anyway. I've never voted straight ticket, so for me it's not a change. And it hasn't been a change for the last couple election cycles. It just wasn't actually in the bill that the ballots had to be that way. Now it actually is in the bill. You do not have to fill out the entire ballot, and machines cannot be programmed to reject incomplete ballots. So there were some machines. I don't know that we even have any still in Texas, but there were some that would reject a ballot if you just wanted to just vote for president. It would reject that ballot. Well, now they have to take the ballot. So if you only want to vote for president, or you only want to vote for this congressman, and you don't want to vote for anybody else, the machine will still take your vote. Okay, a presiding judge or station manager will develop a protocol as to how all electronic devices are equipped with software that tracks all input and activity on the electronic devices, and then the Secretary of State must be made aware of all tracking software to ensure that it's good tracking software. It's not stuff that's going to screw anything up or have problems or have issues or be fraudulent or whatever, right? Again, nothing wrong with that I see. They changed the word guard to licensed peace officer. So polling places have guards usually. Now they want it to actually be a licensed peace officer. Almost every time I've ever gone to vote, there was an actual cop there, usually an off-duty cop that was the guard. But I guess they're making it official. They want it to be a licensed peace officer. Custodian of election records can implement video surveillance to retain records of all activity inside a polling place, so they can put up cameras, so they can see what all's going on. Video must be retained until the end of the calendar year of the election, just in case it's contested. Paper audit trail required unless electronic voting system is auditable and records are retained. So you keep a paper trail, period, no matter what, unless the electronic system you're using is an auditable system, and it has to be approved by the Secretary of State that you're using a system that is actually auditable in a way that is functional and meets the standards of whatever Texas has decided their standards are. The authority that purchased voting machines between September 1st, 2016 and September 1st, 2021 will be allowed to use state fundings to purchase new auditable voting systems or machines. So they're going to give them money to buy new machines if they need new machines. Then it says, voting systems must be tested by the custodian of the election board to ensure that these machines work and are functional and there's nothing wrong with them. If votes counted exceed registered voters in any given county, a recount is automatically initiated. Nothing wrong with that. If you have 100,000 people in your county, it's a fairly small county, but if you have 100,000 people in your county and 110,000 people voted, you have 100,000 registered voters in your county and 110,000 people voted, it triggers a recount to find out what happened. How did that happen? Because Texas does not have, I don't believe Texas has a same-day registration. Like, you can't register and vote on the same day. You have to already be registered. So that would be strange if that happened. Then we've got a commissioner's court may not accept a donation over $1,000 for use in administrating the election. That's simply to prevent people from trying to pay off people on the commissioner's court and do some things that they shouldn't be doing. Then there's a whole section that clarifies definitions, like what does licensed peace officer mean, and it clarifies all the different definitions that have been added. It says an election officer commits an offense if they willingly refuse a poll watcher, and it's a Class A misdemeanor. When it comes down to contestees, people who have contested an election, a contestant must prove the allegation by a preponderance of evidence. They can't just say there was election fraud. They have to have something to prove it before any sort of recount or anything else is triggered. In court, if contestee or an agent of contestee or somebody working for the contestee commits any violation, they are liable to the state $1,000 for each violation. So if somebody in this contested election, it's found out that they tampered with 50 votes, that's $1,000 per vote. They now owe $50,000 to the state, to which it will be deposited into the Treasury for the General Revenue Fund. And then finally, court can award reasonable attorney's fees to the prevailing party in a contested election. Does any of that sound racist or disenfranchising to you? Correct answer is no. So everything you're going to hear about this Texas law is lies. Basically, straight up lies. or it's going to be a bunch of ignorant people who haven't actually read this bill and know nothing about it and are just regurgitating what they've heard in the mainstream media or from Vox or Recode or Huffington Post or wherever. Period. So there you go. I know it's kind of long and boring, but it's important that you have knowledge because these things are important, okay? We don't want what happened in 2020 to happen again, okay? Contested elections are not good for our republic. They're just not. They remove faith in our election process. We need accountability, and we need people to have faith in the election process. And that's what a bill like this does. Now, you may not agree with everything in the bill, okay? That's fine. But nothing in this bill is racist or discriminatory or disenfranchises anybody who wants to vote in the state of Texas. Don't listen to the lies. I even heard people talking about how this vote removes polling places from certain areas where black people live. It doesn't. That's not in the bill at all. It's not there. This is the actual text of the bill. I've read the entire bill, and this bill does not do that. So those people are lying. So please just be armed with information when you get confronted about stuff like this. I wish more people would have been armed with information about the fit that everybody's throwing about the Georgia law, because if you actually read it, there's nothing racist in it. Same thing with this one for Texas. So that's pretty much it. You got any questions, comments, anything like that? Leave that down below, and we will talk to you guys later. Thanks.